we're going to play the whole song for you very shortly. So I want to bring on my friend and wonderful, wonderful songwriter and recording artist and vocalist, Mavis. Mavis, welcome.
Hi.
Everybody is here watching you again for the second time. I told everybody you are our first returning artist ever. Out of the 60 artists that we've done, you're the first.
Yes, I'm so honored. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
well,
It means a lot.
it's well deserved, believe me. Okay, and I just played a little intro to the assignment we're going to play. I told everybody we're going to be the station first to play your new album, 4 out of the 5 songs on your album, and I think everybody is going to love hearing your music, and you can talk about the creation of each of those songs. Okay.
All right.
So, so I like to start off with you telling everybody. I kind of let the cat out of the bag, but you can talk about your new album that's going to drop very soon, and then you can talk about whatever else you're doing. So let everybody know what you're up to.
Okay, well, life is happening. um, it's nothing much has changed as far as being a teacher and mom of 2, and just um, trying to juggle and balance the things that I have to do with the things that I love to do and am created to do. And this project is one of those things that is divinely being released, in a beautiful space. And yeah, that's what I've been up to. Everything is pretty much still just moving and grooving, doing what I have to do. And
How long was the project going on? When did you start recording for this album?
I think it was about August of last year.
All right, so it's been a while.
August of last year.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay, great. That's the first thing I wanted to do is let everybody know about your new music and what you've been up to. Um, let's talk about some different things than we talked about last time when you were on the show. What is it that you would wish everybody who's listening to the show tonight? What would you like them to think about Mavis, Swann, Poole, the vocalists, after they leave the show tonight, after hearing you?
After hearing the music?
After hearing your music, what would you like them to think about you?
Uh, well, I think that, it's so personal, and I'm so human. If nothing else, I'm human, and I'm having a human experience just like everyone else. So I would just hope that everyone found something that they could relate to, and everyone found something that they could grab a hold to and actually listen to truthfully and bear witness to, not just like, or if they can't relate, just to be, hopefully they find something that they like. If it's just the timbre of my voice or the texture or, something about it. I just hope there's something that can be enjoyed, if nothing else, organically enjoyed. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. How long have you been recording?
Well, actually, the first project I did was a gospel project with a group years ago, called God's Voices. That was, I don't think it was ever released. And that was like maybe 19 already. That was like, that was like maybe like 1993, 94, maybe something like that. So
About how many songs have you written and recorded since then? You have any idea?
I've been writing. I didn't even know I was writing music at first. I would just like write a poem and put music to it. So I've been doing it really since I was a kid, since I was like a young, maybe, yeah, preteen. I've been doing it for a long time.
What made you want to become a vocalist? What was it that caught your attention?
I think it was just one of those things. I always say music chose me. It was always, well, my mom is I always say she's my favorite vocalist. And I remember when I was younger, she only sings in church. So I may have said this the last time I was on, I'm not sure, but it's a part of my story. So I used to, she only sings in church, unless she's like, she used to sing around the house on Sunday mornings. And she used to, if she caught me listening to her, she would stop. She would stop singing. Like she just wouldn't do it. And it wasn't like something, I don't think it was like, it wasn't anything against me, of course. I'm her child, but it was more of, it was so personal to her. It was so sacred to her, and she wasn't doing it for a show. So on Sunday mornings, I used to sneak and crouch by the kitchen door so she wouldn't see me. And I would just listen to her sing with the little digital clock radio. I would just sit there and listen and that was everything for me. So I think I fell in love with my mom singing, and then it became a thing of, me listening to voices and appreciating early on the different sounds of different people. Stevie Wonder, I remember he tapped me. That's what friends are for. That's what friends are for was one of the songs for some reason that really stood out to me. And I really just like to hear different people sing. And then We Are the World. Those songs where they're just different voices. So yeah, so it caught me early on, and I had a respect for it. I didn't know I had a gift for a while, but I've always had a passion for it, even when I wasn't aware of why or what it was. I've always had a passion for the voice, for music overall, because honestly, my favorite instrument is probably between bass and trumpet.
Really?
So I love music, period. I mean, it's always just been, I used to realize I was the only ones of my friends that knew the vocal parts, but I always learned all of the solos as well. So I'd be singing, and it wasn't jazz. It would be like on R&B if they took a little solo, and even that's what friends are for. Like I used to learn all the little, the nuances and everything. So yeah, it's just it chose me early on, and I've been able to maintain that relationship with it, and yeah, I think that's it.
You were classically trained too, though. You spent a lot of time studying music. Why don't you tell people a little bit about that?
Well, when I started college, I that was it. I mean, that's you get 2 degrees. It used to be 3, but you get 2 degrees because you learn the classical side of things as well as the jazz side of things, if you choose. So though I was a jazz, my focus was in jazz, the foundation was built off of a classical foundation, and we had to learn about, how the technique and how to appropriately use our voice. And, um, it's really it's a cultural thing, because coming from Black church and just, Black music, we sing how we feel. It's all about the feel. It's not about, let me speak higher in the voice, let me breathe, let me sit this. It's not about posture. You could be laying flat on your back, wailing, and that's just acceptable, in Black music, especially coming out of a church where it's so spiritual, and then versus learning from a more when something that you do is set to academia, it's a different approach, and that's where the classical part is. And it's important because I used to go home every Sunday hoarse. I used to go home with no voice for a long time. And then it got to the point where when I learned how to use my voice, and I learned where to speak, and I learned what to do if my voice was feeling tired from the classical training, it literally it saved my voice. It became the health of my voice. And I still rely heavily on it, and I always will, because it's you can feel it, but then you have to also know how to take care of it at the same time. So,
So, so early classical training really has benefited you in terms of being a vocalist
Oh, absolutely.
throughout your career.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, terrific. Look, what I want to do is I want to play a lot of your music. I want to make sure I can get it all in. So the first song I chose to play is one of your new songs called "How Do We Go?"
How do we
So,
grow?
I'm sorry, did I say go? Or how do you grow? Okay, I apologize. So why don't you set it up and tell everybody a little bit about the song and what you know what were you thinking when you created it? Give people some insight before we play it.
You know, I was upset. I was upset. I was dealing with real life situations in a relationship, and the person I was dealing with was not. Um, he's a forever partner. We'll put it that way. He's forever in my life, and we just had a situation where, um, you know, it's just one of those things where,
Come on, let it out.
to be honest, it started at work. Eddie had sent me a track. Shout out to Eddie Gypsy Stokes, who produced the entire album, the entire EP. He sent me the music, and he became a listening ear, as well as shout out to King Myron Ruffin. He sent me the music, and I just spoken to him, and I was just frustrated. And usually when I get in these spaces, instead of just coming home and stewing over it, I'm like, and I press record and I go. And I just started. And I kind of listened to it. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Let me take this out. This is a little too personal. Let me take this out. This is a little too raw. Let me try this again. And I found my way. I started at work. In the studio at the school. We have a little studio. And I just needed to get it out right then and there. And then I, left and went home and finished it in my own studio. And I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite songs because it is just heartfelt. I'm singing from my soul in this one, and it was a real situation. And I'll always remember the situation because there's a song set to it now. So that particular moment in my life has its own soundtrack now. So
Wonderful. Okay, let me pull this song up right now and play it. How Do We Grow by Mavis, SWAN. You're wonderful. Here goes.
Argument after argument, I spend time trying to find where I should have drawn the line in my mind. History repeats itself again, 2 losses, 0 wins. This is not commitment, it feels more like a sin. And I require more than that. And no, you can't have me on my back. And yes, I heard everything you said. But can we get along outside of the bed? We fight, we break up, kiss and we make up. But there's no wake up. Just doing nasty. Real love is patient, deep as the ocean. How do we grow? We just do the hoochie coochie. I'm deeper than the things you give me credit for. Have you noticed how I walk through every closed door? And we both know that you're a very brilliant kid, but you don't respect me when it comes to reasoning. And I require more than that. And no, you can't have me on my back. And yes, I heard every little thing you said. But can we get along outside of the bed? Of the bed.
wonderful. That's such a beautiful song.
Thank you so much. I haven't heard it in a while, so it feels good to hear it. I'm like, yes, this feels good.
All right. Yeah, that's really great. Um, just out of curiosity, when you start to think about it, you said this comes from your heart. Um, you write the lyrics down. How do you go about composing the song?
I just start literally when the music is there. Now that takes away a lot of the pressure. When I have to do the tracks myself, then it kind of slows down the creative process because then I have to, okay, I want the bass to sound like this and I have to play that. Now I want the drums to sound like this. Let me figure this out. Then I want to play maybe some pads or some keys or whatever. It's great. I love doing it sometimes, but it just becomes, by the time I can do it, but it just slows the process down. When King Eddie sent this music and it was already so put together and it was already nice and it just felt a certain way and it just was like, oh yes, and it just comes out. So I'm just like, I already had the material because I was living the material. So I just started, and like I said, I would just start singing, and then I go back and I'm like, I also knew I did want to have, I wanted to mess around with my lower range in this song in the beginning,
Right.
So I had those ideas and I started, and sometimes when the lyrics, I'll just get that idea, and once I start, for this particular time, once I started, I just kind of kept going. I went back, recorded, okay, delete this, go back, try it again with this. And then at some point, once I have kind of the idea, then I went back and just started writing out the rest. Sometimes the process happens where I have just lyrics. I'm just doing lyrics and he'll send it and I'm like, okay, let me make that work over what he sent, But this particular one started off with just starting. Argument after argument. I've spent time trying to find where I should have drawn the line in my mind. And that's literally how it started coming to me, So that's how this particular one.
So basically, almost every song is a different experience for you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. When I talk to a lot of artists, that's what they tell me. They tell me that this, the creative process is just what it's called. It's a creative process. There is no pattern, necessarily.
Yeah.
And the other side of the coin is, how do you know when the song is done? For a lot of artists, letting go is a hard part of the process.
Oh, not for me. For me, I'm usually like, if it's half done, I'm like, okay, and I'm just going to do this part again. And that's that. Like, for me, it's never been, that's the one thing. It's like, my teacher used to drive my teacher crazy in school. He's like, it needs to be this song is only like 18 bars. You're not done. I'm like, well, I'll just repeat it.
Bruce Springsteen is well known to work on one song for a year.
Mm.
And in the studio, he will be doing over and over. I mean, it's amazing it doesn't get overproduced because but everything must be in the final analysis. Nothing else can come out of him with that song. And other artists let go right away. They just, they this is it. I wanted to bear my emotions the way they are right now, and let's get on with it. So it's different. I agree. So let me change the subject kind of a little bit on you. There are certain beliefs about what it means to be a vocalist. Do you have to have a great voice? You may have to be a songwriter. You may have to have a stage presence. There's so many different aspects to what it means, to be a vocalist. You're not going to just sing in the shower. So I'm just curious about this. Are there any commonly held beliefs about being a vocalist that you passionately disagree with, that you think isn't necessary to become a great vocalist, that's out there that people expect but aren't necessary?
The first thought I have is, who are we? Who are we to define the music that comes out of someone? Who are we to judge it and label it and say that's not valid? That's how I feel. It's like, now I may not like it personally. I might not relate to it. It may not be my cup of tea. But if it means something to you, then somewhere, someone is going to be able to benefit from it, appreciate it. Like there's a lot of singers that to me they have hit records and I don't think they're great vocalists. I don't think
That's right. Yes.
voices.
Yes.
Just like, well, I get it. I get what, but say there's singers that don't sing in tune.
Hey,
All kind
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan.
And I know some people that, listen, just it's because it's so much more than that. So
Exactly.
when I first, I may have mentioned this the last time too. When I first heard Nina Simone, I remember my dad, when I first decided I was going to study jazz, I remember, he gave me all of his Coltrane, Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, everything just here. He was so excited. And Nina Simone, I was just like her, Sarah Vaughan. I was like, I don't like their voices. Like, I do not like their voices. So
That's
I
funny.
remember, I was coming out and I just didn't. I didn't like the quality. I didn't like the way it sounded. I just didn't like it. And I remember pulling up to my parents' house. I was going to visit my parents and Nina Simone was playing. And I sat in the car. And by the end of the song, mind you, this is the person that doesn't like her voice. By the end of the song, I started crying.
Wow.
And I couldn't put my finger on why I was crying. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't like a sad song, but something in her voice, something in her reached out and grabbed me in a way that shook me to understand what everybody else understood. And it wasn't about her sounding like this or sounding like that. And it really, it began my love affair with Nina Simone. That's where it began. I didn't understand it at first. The same with Sarah Vaughan. I was like, it's just, what is that? Like, I just didn't immediately have an appreciation for her voice. And one day it just smacked me in the back of my head. And I was like, what is that? What? And then I heard another song and I just couldn't stop. And it just became like a drug. And I was like, oh, so it's deeper than just the things that I was looking for at the beginning or whatever I was basing things on. So,
it's funny you mentioned that, because over the years there have been songs that I really didn't like the artist, but I loved the song, and the song moved me, and so I understand completely what you're saying. It's really the context of the song just as much as it's the artist who's presenting it. And you can find things in some of the songs like you pointed out with Nina. I've done that with Billie Holiday and with Ella Fitzgerald. There's things I love and the things I can pass on. But it's the quality. It's the fact the artist can reach you on a different level, and everybody else finds another track or another song that reaches them the same way.
right.
So it's more than just the artist. It's their ability to reach different levels all the time. And that's what makes artists really great. They're not just one-hit wonders.
Mhm.
They really create a body of music, and people love it. They start to gravitate towards it. So okay, let's go on to the next one. When you first started as a vocalist, was there something that was more challenging to you than you ever imagined?
Okay, repeat that one more time.
When you first started to become a vocalist, you started to develop as a vocalist. Was there anything that you found challenging that you never expected?
If I'm being totally honest, I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. And the reason is I didn't approach it as if it was something I was going to do. It was just something I was doing. So it's almost like walking. Like I might walk weird to everybody else, but I don't notice it. I'm just walking. It's getting me from point A to point B. So I'm not thinking about the way it looks when I'm walking. So when I'm singing, then when I was singing, it was just like, it came to me. It was just happening. Like I wasn't trying to, and I think I was always kind of obsessive with it. Like if there was something that I couldn't quite get, like a run or a riff or something like that, I just worked it out. I spent time with it, but I didn't think of it as crazy, like hard, or it was exciting to me.
What about transitioning to the stage? You didn't find anything challenging about that, going from, working on developing your voice, being classically trained, and suddenly going on stage in front of big audiences? That wasn't a challenge either? It just came natural?
It was natural because I grew up in the church singing in front of people.
Right.
So I was already, there is nothing more critical and crucial than Black church audiences. It's almost like the Apollo Theater. Back in the day, Apollo audience. The Apollo audience, they were boo children. They were booing children at the Apollo. So it's that kind of a, you know, that thing. Like if they're not feeling what you're doing, they will sit back and just watch. Like somebody go get her off the stage. Somebody go ahead and thank you, baby. Thank you. You know, it's so brutally honest. I think that, I mean, we just kind of just ran with it, and we learned to be professionals. A lot of the music in the Black church was learned by rote. It's learned by, you know, just whatever, repeating. We weren't reading music. So there was so many mistakes made that you became a professional because you had to learn to play stuff off. You had to learn to play it off. So improvisation, all of these things came natural because we had to figure out how to end the song because we didn't rehearse that part, or we forgot, or somebody messed up here. So we just, all right, we play it off and we make it look like we meant to do it. That translates well when you're going anywhere else, doing anything else, because you just carry that charismatic energy and, you know, and figure it out. That's it. So, you know, it translated well, transferred well to any stage that I was on, actually.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the Apollo Theater. The first concert I ever went to was the Apollo Theater. I was like 8 or 10 years old. And I was there for the first rock and roll extravaganza with Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis, the Big Bopper. It was Buddy Holly and the Crickets. I mean, that was my first concert. A neighbor took me with his son and didn't tell my parents I was going to the Apollo Theater. And I'll tell you what, a lot of those guys on the stage were white dudes, and they're playing in front of a tough audience, you know. You know, and it was after that I was hooked on music forever, hooked on it forever. I did it. Yeah, you know. Okay, is there anything that you wish you could tell a younger vocalist who's now starting to get into the career to better prepare them for the artist that you are today? What do they need to know? What can you tell them that they need to focus on today as opposed to when you first started in the music industry?
Is there something what would I tell a younger vocalist about
today?
Them into
you know, you had this experience. You grew up in a different era, obviously, and you know. So, what would you tell them today that you really think they should know? It's important today.
This message, I think I would carry it. I probably said it on your last show, and I will say it on every stage I get a chance to say it on. Be yourself. Be yourself. You're created exactly the way you're supposed to be. There's nothing that's a mistake about you. So when you sing and when you make music, if it sounds different, that's not a punishment. That's your gift. That's your sound. So you nurture it and you get it, you develop it to a way that you accept it, and then you present it to the world. And if you love it, eventually those that love it with you will find you and find your sound. But being authentic and being yourself and honoring and accepting yourself is the only way, in my opinion, you can truly be successful, because you never have to put on. You never have to become something. You never have to pretend. It's just liberating, you know. It's just you stay light because you're just you. And I think it's the biggest gift that the Creator gave us is uniqueness and individuality. So if you remain true to who you are, Nina Simone is the epitome to me of a person that just remained true to who she was and just was herself, you know. And people that loved it, and people that didn't, it wasn't for them, you know, unless you were like me, where it wasn't for me until I realized it absolutely was, you know. So by her being herself, I was introduced to her versus her changing to make the world, you know, fit what she, you know, or pretending that she was something that she wasn't. So any vocalist, any profession, any human being, I just encourage anyone to remain true to who you are, because that truly is your gift. It's not a mistake. If you honor it and you spend time with it and develop it, you will be who you're supposed to be, and you will save lives, the ones that you're assigned to divinely, because they're waiting for you. And if you're not being you and you're not in that place, then, you know, that those opportunities are lost, those people are lost. So
let me take you back to a previous question. Now that you're talking about being yourself. Today, the business of music is not the same as it was even 25 years ago, when FM radio and record labels dominated. And if you didn't get on a record label and you weren't on the radio, you weren't going to be heard. There was no other path. Do you think things have gotten better or more difficult for vocalists, first of all, not to be heard? That's obviously not the issue. To be able to monetize your career and understand the business of music. Was that a challenge for you?
well, it wasn't at one time a challenge for me because I wasn't looking for it that way. I
Right.
wasn't looking for it. I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it. I always say it's my instrument. I love it, but it's my sanity. Music is my sanity. So um, I didn't even think at one point that I could have it as a career because I didn't know many people that actually had it as a career. You know, so and anything I saw on television seemed so far away when I was younger. Of course now that that veil has been lifted and we're like, oh, they just did that. Oh, okay. Now anybody can just in their bedroom turn on the camera and reach the world.
Right.
Um, let me make sure I'm sticking to the question. What was the question again? I feel like I'm
The question was, obviously the music industry has changed. I'm going back to the question of challenges. And, for a young artist or a young vocalist that's trying to build a career in music today, wouldn't you say that one of the big challenges is not just creating your music, but getting somebody to hear it and monetizing it so you can have a career? So
well,
yeah, go ahead.
I think the other part of it is understanding that there are other ways to monetize a career in music, not just being a performer. You could also, as myself, you could be a recording artist. You can record in the studio. You can record with other people. You could also be a teacher. You could also teach it. You could just do, you can do performances, of course. You can do television. You can do voiceovers. There's so many other ways that you can monetize. And I think the thing that makes it hard is if you're just trying to be a celebrity vocalist and all you're doing is performing, that's the part. Anything can happen, but it's just the amount of time you're willing to dedicate to making that happen. Eventually, if you do anything long enough, you're going to reach some level of something,
Right.
But yeah, I think it's if it's to make money, I just think you have to monetize it. You just need to, or you don't need to. You just there's other ways that it can happen. It's not just on the stage performing. I think that's the big thing. Sometimes it could just be, it could be backstage. It could be off the stage. You can produce. You can do other things. I guess if you're saying vocalist, though, it would be vocal. So, like I'm saying, music teacher or recording in a studio or these other things. A lot of people don't want to do that, and they don't have to. But it just sometimes it takes longer if you're not going that route.
Well, you know that for a lot of vocalists, I think right away of Lisa Fisher with the Rolling Stones. For years, she was a background singer, and then she said, "I'm going solo," and she's had a phenomenal solo career, And so you can be a background singer, and or you can be on stage, and be a background singer, and then a little later in the show, you come on as a solo act. I think you're right. I mean, and this one kind of I wanted you to explore. There are multiple ways in which you can build, a career in music, not just as a hobby, but as an economic, an economically successful career. But you have to be flexible, and figure out where can I apply my talent. How can I do it best? Like there are so many background singers that have, started out doing that. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of somebody right now. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he had so many background singers that came on to be soloists afterwards. So this is another avenue. So I kind of wanted, so I was just curious what you would tell a young artist, and I hear what you're saying. You can have a career in music. It doesn't have to be one thing.
And also some people, you know, ego is always a big part of being a performer. It's always a part of doing a lot of things, but definitely as a you know, if you're trying to have a solo career. And what I've always heard, you know, people discourage you from singing background a lot of times because they say, well, they'll see you as a background singer and then you have to gain respect in the foreground. The reality is a lot of background singers weren't background singers anyway. You know, for me, yes, I call my, you know, even the people that sang background for me, I started calling them supporting vocalists because I had people like, you know, Nicholas Ryan Gant and all these amazing vocalists when I was in New York that were singing behind me and singing my music. But I'm like, I can't call these people background singers. They're just as talented as I am, you know, so I would just call them supporting vocals. So a lot of people discouraged from, you know, and I picked and chose where I sang. I sang behind Lauryn Hill, of course. I sang behind Alice Smith, you know. I sang behind Prince's band, you know. And like I was selective about where I sang. I didn't just sing behind, you know, Keisha from up the block. Like, nah, not this time.
I got you.
Like, you know. So there's people that discourage against that too, but the same way with like people that write or people that sing songs for other people, like to sell them, but realistically they're actually singers, and sometimes they end up being heard from that sample recording, and people are like, well, who was that singing? You know? So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to you know, stabilize a career and have income and still be involved, totally surrounded with music, you know, but being able, because the thing about performance that people don't realize is the amount of wear and tear it puts on your body and your voice. And with a voice, you need proper rest. So sometimes, like right now, you know, I'm dealing with vocal therapy and different things because as a teacher, I overuse my voice, you know, with middle and high school students, you know, so you use it a lot. And in that meantime, you know, Myron is finding ways, okay, let's get this next project out. The work is done. So we can just push this now while you rest, while you go to vocal therapy, while you get it together. And if you don't have something to do in the meantime, and your instrument is, you know, performing is your only, what you're doing, your only line of work, then what do you do when you can't perform?
Right. Exactly.
So, you know.
Wonderful. What I want to do now, I want to turn our attention to another song. I want you to kind of set this one up. Every Man Ain't the Same. Is this related to your first song? Or is this...
Nope.
Well, go ahead. Tell us about the motivation for this one.
You know, this was just, I wanted to remind women and encourage men. Sometimes we get this thing of just tearing down and bashing men, you know, and it becomes so it becomes so normal for us as women, young women, you know, that we don't even realize that we do it, you know. And some men absolutely deserve what comes their way because of how they treat not just women but people, usually themselves first, you know. So this was just one of those things that I just had an idea about that. Like I wanted it to be something positive, but I wanted to just uplift the men with this one, you know. And like I said, just remind the women, like, you know, when you hear it, you'll see what I mean. Just remind the women that every man is not the same. And if you close off, then you'll never love again. If you close off, every person will pay for the last person's sins, and that's not fair. So if you ever want a clean slate and truly to have a chance at a happy, healthy relationship, you have to be able to let each person carry their own weight in their own bag, their own sins, let them pay their crimes, but be able to start fresh with the person and give them a clean slate. Otherwise, it's hopeless for everybody involved.
You know, you're raising such an interesting point about relationships. You know, too often we've had perhaps a bad experience, and then we hear a new person using the same words, but the meanings aren't the same and the intentionality isn't the same. And right away we short circuit it and we say, again. And you know, we don't give that person, you don't give Every Man Ain't the Same a chance. That it's the words, you know, a word can mean a lot of things, and it's the context and the emotion and the intentionality. So I think it's an important song. When I heard it, I started listening to it, I realized you're really saying something very important.
Mhm.
So it's great. Let me play this one for everybody, and let me get my cursor here. Here we go, and then we can talk about it again afterwards.
Been through so much before, hearts broken and the tears they pour. And love knocked again at my door, but I wanted to be sure. Oh, how could I love again when I was still healing? Should I give it a try? Should I give it a try? I wish you could understand the way that I love that man. And then I decided, baby, I'ma trust you. I'ma trust because I have to, but I want to, and I want you, and I believe that we got a good thing. I believe in us. I believe in us. I'ma trust you, not because I have to, but I want to, and I want you, and I believe that we got a good thing. We got a good thing. Every man ain't the same. Every man ain't the same. No, no. Every man ain't the same. No, no. And I'm so grateful, 'cause there are times when I wanna look through your phone and I say, no, no, girl, leave it alone. Leave that man's phone alone. 'Cause there's still work I gotta do so that I can be the best I can for you. I gotta remind myself, baby, I'ma trust you, not because I have to, I'ma trust you, but I want to, and I want you, I'm gonna trust you, and I believe that we got a good thing, and we got a good thing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Baby, I'ma trust you, not because I have to, you're my man, but I want to, and I want you, and I'm your lady, and I believe that we got a good thing, yeah, yeah. Baby, I'ma trust you, not because I have to, trust you, but I want to, I trust you, and I believe you're that we got a like good anybody else. So no, 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 no. Trust you, not because I have. That's why I love you, boy. I want to, and I want you. That's why I love you, baby. That we got a good thing. Every man ain't the same. Never met a man like you to treat me the way that you say.
Ah, it's wonderful. I've heard your music before for quite a number of years now, and I think the new music you have out now it's kind of a different direction. It's more R&B, it's less jazz, more soul, and but you're so good at it. It's so refreshing to hear that coming. With your it's like a breaking away from your past, the music you've done before. Am I right? Am I wrong?
You're right. You're nailing it. That was the plan. We were
Yeah.
like, let's try R&B. Yes.
Let's do that. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, so now you've moved from jazz and you crossed over into R&B. What changes have occurred? Anything in the music industry that you never saw coming, that you didn't think would be here, that's here today?
As far as what?
Just changes in the music industry. As you've been a vocalist, and you keep look, we talked about earlier, it went from record labels and FM now to streaming and Spotify and and Bandoozle. Was there anything that did you see this coming? Did you see the movement from hard copy to streaming?
That's exactly what I was about to say. That was the one thing that there was a movie out years ago that had like, I can't even remember. You may know what it is. There was like a lost city, I think, or there was I can't even think of what it is, but it's like a Soylent Green type movie, but it was like a library, and it was like the last library, I think, and it was destroyed. I can't remember what it was.
I remember that being on a Twilight Zone once.
Twilight Zone. I don't remember what it was.
That's what I remember being on. Yeah, the library was destroyed, and the person who was the only surviving person, he finally got his chance to read books, and the library was destroyed.
That may have been it. It may have been the Twilight Zone. That may have been it. But it's almost like I would have never. And if I can just be open about it, because there's so much cockamamie that we have to learn as history as a Black person, and you have to be told, or things are written, and it's like, whether it's true or not, we have to learn it because it's in a book, and we have to go to school, and we have to whatever. And because that's been the case, I'm always careful when it's like, now things are digital, or now things are out of our hands and we can't hold on to something, and it's just like in some stratosphere or the cyber world, because I can't go into the cyber world and hold on to that or prove that this ever existed. If somebody were to delete the cyber world, then there it is, all of it's gone. So I'm a person that is a big believer in writing things down. Write your experience, even if you don't think it. Helen Keller never knew her diary would be talked about in 2023 and beyond. She wasn't writing it for that reason, but she wrote it, and it's the only reason we have proof that she existed and what was happening in the times from her perspective, which she didn't know was powerful at the time. So when you think of that, it's like, when it comes to anything physical, music, anything, and it goes analog, to me, it freaks me out a little bit, because I'm like, we need proof that this existed. We need proof. Give me the hard copy.
Mavis, it's funny because the biggest form of music that's being created now is vinyl. Vinyl has made a massive comeback, and I think in a digital age, people want to hold on to something real. I think what you're saying is 100% true.
Well, we never decided we wanted to let it go. That was something outside of our hands too, because I remember holding on to, and before, of course, 8 tracks and everything else, I remember holding on to CDs. Like, well, no, cassettes. I still have cassettes in my garage.
Yep.
I still have cassettes, and then it's like they forced you to change over because they started putting the new music on CDs. So if you want to get anything new, you have to CDs. But now that means I have to have a CD player. So now we do that, and then they move it from that to, something else. Now it's this, now it's Blu-ray, now it's this, is that. Everything changes, and we never asked for it anyway. It was always out of our hands. We just had to adjust to what happened to us. So vinyl never left, neither did cassette tapes, neither did 8 tracks. It's just, we had to adjust because they stopped making our machines to even play it. It's like, well, you're going to be stuck in this era, and the rest of the world on. Take it or leave it, and we had to adjust.
It was like if in the late '90s, if you would have asked somebody, what would you like to see improved, in your movie watching experience, they would have told you a faster rewind on the VHS, but they wouldn't have said a DVD. They never would have thought of that.
No.
So these things happen, and it's adaptive, even for a vocalist. Going from analog to digital, it loses its warmth. That's why people are going back to vinyl. That's the reason. It's a different kind of experience. So sometimes new things aren't always better things. Okay, let me ask you another question. This is what I really have been wanting to ask you. If you were sitting to the one artist from any era who you idealized, what would you ask them?
If I was
Any
with
sitting next to the artist of that you revere the most, what question would you ask that artist if you had that opportunity? It could be a current artist, an artist that isn't with us anymore, whoever you are idolized, and what's the question you want to ask them?
I think it would be sounds so weird coming from me. I think it would be Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. I think I would want to know how it felt to be him. I feel like he was a pure soul. I do. And I feel like he was attacked for being a pure soul. People took advantage of that. And recently I just found out they were saying that before he was getting all those accusations, that he was about to buy Marvel and some other things and Marvel Studios. And they have a recording of him saying, man, listen, he was so excited, saying the possibilities that could come out of it. The same way it happened with Bill Cosby wanting to buy NBC. And the moment you start wanting to do things of this nature, things change for you, because now you're talking about taking a lot of money from a lot of people. And that doesn't go over well in the world we live in. So
you could be excused for a crime of violence, but not a crime of property.
It's true. So I think I would just want to know, like, I felt like they have a picture of him, like when everything, like it really broke my heart when Oprah did that interview after his death with those, was it Oprah or Gail? Someone did an interview with him with these other kids that accused him, that already said he didn't do anything, and then they came back after his death and said, no, actually he did. We just didn't say it because blah, 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 blah. And he wasn't here, and it was like he looked at Oprah as a friend. And the fact that she would come back and do this, like, there is a picture that I put up as a profile picture. And it was a picture of his glove, the glittery white glove, and it's just his middle finger. He's sticking up his middle finger. It was just the glove with the middle finger. And it's just one of those things. It just really shows, like, I think I would just want to know how he really felt. Like, how did you deal with what you went through, and I think a lot of it is the reason that he's dead. A lot of times people don't deal with it. They turn to narcotics, they turn to drugs, they turn to other things to kind of find peace of mind, to shut out the world, But I think it would be my Michael. I love me some Michael Jackson. I do.
For me, it was amazing to have two geniuses like Prince and Michael Jackson alive at the same time. Because Prince, on his first album, he played every instrument. He was beyond belief. He's one of the great guitarists ever, and never really got, I don't think, the accolades he deserved for his guitar work. Yeah. And to have Michael Jackson and Prince, and then Stevie Wonder a little earlier. It's amazing to have had that kind of talent around.
Yeah.
So that would be the person who you would ask the question to, right?
That's my guy.
Okay. All right, now I want to get to another piece of your music from your new releases. And everybody, Mavis has, a new album coming out, and we're the first station to be playing the music from Swann Poole. So I want everybody, you can find the music on my station. It'll be on Source Radio. It'll be in the rotation. You can hear it 3 times a day, every day, for each one of the songs. So you get a whole big dose of Mavis. So the song I want to introduce now is Everyday Hero. And I want you to talk about where did that come from, the inspiration for it. It's so different from the other two we've just played.
Mm-hmm. That, I was Myron Ruffin. Myron Ruffin inspired this song. Because now, of course, not all, there's certain parts that just it's like, okay, no, this is just a song. I'm not singing that part to him. But I would be on the phone sometimes with Myron, and he's like, he always makes time to talk. And I'm calling, and he's like, okay, I have about 7 minutes, and then I got to take my son to do this, and then I got to go cook, and then I got to go do this and that, and then I'm also working with this artist and doing 12 other things. And he's not complaining. He's just literally saying, this is why I have 7 minutes, because this still has
And he just used up 5 minutes.
Right, exactly. He just tell me. So, that happens. And I just watched him do this so much, like him. And I think about like the people in my life that, the men. I remember being in a relationship with a guy, and the guy, like, go park the car in New York City outside of, what was the name of the club?
The Blue Note? Okay.
And I'm like, go park the car, because it took me a while. And, it took him a long time to get back in. And I'm just like, dude, like, what happened? Like, and he was quiet until after. And he took me on the journey that he went on, what he had to go through to park that car in Manhattan, where everything is right in front of a club. You're not going to find parking right there, but what he had to do. And it really just showed me sometimes as women, the men in our lives really stabilize us, and we don't even know what they go through to bring us everything, to bring us the world. It's just, they go do things and we're like, like me, what took you so long? Not realizing what they had to go through, the hurdles they had to do just to bring you what you asked for. And some of them don't get back and complain. We're doing the complaining. We're getting screwed and we don't realize it. So this is another one that is very, it's for the men. It's for anybody. It's everyday hero, females too. I look at myself as an everyday hero, but it's Myron. When I was listening to that, I'm just listening to just how these people keep things afloat, and we just kind of keep stepping, and we don't even realize it. They just kind of get lower and lower, and we don't realize it. It's because all of the weight of the world, in addition to us, are on their back, So that's what it is. Just taking a moment to honor people that often we overlook, and they do it every day, and they do it silently and quietly, so we don't, and without complaint sometimes. So it's just honoring those people that are everyday heroes.
Yeah, that's great. You talk about parking in New York. I'll tell you a real quick one. My first date, I must have been like 18, and I drove from Long Island and had my date and parked. We went out and had dinner, and I forgot where I parked the car in New York. I had to get a taxi and drive around, spend $40, drive around for 2 hours till I found my car. So if he was lost for a while, he was not really lost. I was really lost.
I can't even. I've been there.
It's so embarrassing.
It is. It's rough. You were 18. I've done it older, so
yeah. All right, let's play this wonderful song, "Everyday Hero." Okay.
You love me so good, yes you do. You swept the floor last night, and something about that turns me on. Yeah. Left a note on my window telling me to see you when I get home. I didn't know just what was in store for me, so I got in the car. Flowers arose, pretty little things for me. You found your way to my heart. It's the little things that you do make you want to give it to you good, like I know I should. You're my everyday hero. It's the little things that you say make me want to stay and play with you all day, baby. You're my everyday hero. You're my hero every day. Satin sheets laid out and drew me a bubble bath. No clothes, no clothes, no clothes, just my heels and the glass. things for me. You didn't tell me I was your dessert, boy. It's the little things that you do, make me wanna do it like you should. Like I know I should. You're my everyday hero. It's the little things that you say, the little things you all day, baby. The little things. Oh boy, yeah. It's the little things that you do, keep it too good, like I know I should. You're my everyday. You're my everyday hero. That's your eye, that's your eye. Oh, it's the little things that you say, make me understand that you all day, baby. You're my everyday. You're my everyday hero. You're my hero every day. Your love is so good. You're my everyday. Yeah, yeah, every day. Your love is so good. You're my everyday. Hero. Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. I just want to tell everybody we have Mavis Swann Poole on, and this is we have an exclusive. We're playing her new album that's forthcoming, and we're playing tracks from her new album, first time ever. And the music is just wonderful. And for those that are joining us late, Mavis has been a jazz vocalist most of her career, and she's just changed gears and she's come out with these wonderful R&B tracks, a wonderful album. And I encourage everybody to go to Amazon or to go wherever you iTunes, Apple Store, wherever you buy your music, and you'll really be happier for it. They're wonderful tracks. So Mavis, it's just wonderful. I mean, every song is so different, and that's one of the things that I like about it. I think fans really appreciate when the artist takes them in a different direction. They get to see another side of the artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's timely. I think it's overdue for you to do some R&B. And so I just think it's going to be highly successful and it's going to get a lot of airtime.
No, thank you so much. I hope so. We're manifesting. We're claiming that.
Tell me something. Like I have another question for you. What strengths do you have that you believe are making you what I call a great vocalist? What are your strengths that you think make you unique or make you make fans want to gravitate to your music? What is it?
I'm a real person. Like right now, there's a 6-year-old on my floor tapping my foot, trying to get my attention. I'm about to kick her out of the room. You say hi, Rebecca. Quick, just say hi. They can't see you. You have to stand
I can't see you. Come on, let me see you.
This is an interview. Just stand up and say hi.
Hi. Hi. How you doing?
Okay, I'm hurrying. Scram. I'm hurrying. I am. It won't close. I will make it. Okay, go. Okay, I'm coming. Quick. Go. How many more? Let's say 20 more minutes at max. It will be less. 20 minutes.
The most, yeah.
The most, right. So we'll be done. But you got to let me finish or it's going to take longer. 60, 20 times. Go count it. She will count it. She literally will sit out there and count. So
Good. That works.
Sorry. That relatable thing of being a real person. And, I have to shout my daughter out. I had her to sing at the concert that I produced for my with my high schoolers and middle schoolers this year. She had a little solo on the song. So shout out to Aria. But I think that that's what I usually hear from people. When I get on stage, I give the same thing that I'm giving right now. It's not like something different comes out. Now there is a rise that happens because my performer meets me on stage, but it's still essentially all me. And I don't become unapproachable, just because I'm on stage. So what I usually hear from people is that's the thing that, they like the most. And sometimes it gets weird because some people take advantage of that space. That's something that I understand why people start separating. I've tried not to do it, but I have unfortunately had to deal with stalkers and other people, just taking advantage of that space. And, so that's the part that you start understanding, like, okay, I can't be overly approachable to everyone, but, it still has to be that element of, I want to feel people and I want them to feel me. Like, I don't want it to just be, I'm the artist, you're the fan. Like, no, we're people. We're having an experience and sing with me, and most of my shows, I usually call someone up to sing. Especially if they come and I know they're a singer, it has happened definitely about the last 15 years. So most of my friends come because they know I'm going to call them up to sing, and it's usually quick. I don't overdo it to where it's 15 people singing 15 songs. One time, I'm going around the audience with the mic. You sing a little bit, now you sing a little bit, and so I just think is that being able to relate to people because I understand that I'm them and they're me, so yeah, I would assume, well, I've been told that that's a big part of it.
Okay. Let me take you back to something that we were talking about a little while ago, a different way of approaching it. If you have you done any collaborations where you've done a whole album with somebody, another vocalist? Have you ever done that?
I
don't recall.
Not a whole album with anyone, no.
Okay, and that's my next question. I think I know the answer already. If you could pick anybody from the past 75 years to collaborate on the whole album, who would it be? Would it be Nina Simone? Would it be Michael Jackson? Would it be Prince? I mean, you mentioned so many artists. Who would you want to do an absolute collaboration, a whole album with?
I think it might be Carmen McRae.
Prince?
Carmen McRae.
Oh, Carmen McRae. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I think it might be
Carmen McRae. Wow. Okay.
It might be Carmen McRae. I love her. I love her voice. I love the. I think she just does not. She didn't get what she deserved as far as attention. But the Betty Carter, Carmen McRae album, to me, the duet album. I always. Oh wait, it's hard. My other two are Louis and Ella. Oh my God.
That's right. Yeah, I was wondering if.
God, it's so hard. It's so many. It would be just in that vein though, because it feeds every fiber of my being. It just does. I love Michael too. I love all these people too, the R&B artists. But it's just something about those guys that just like, ooh, they dig a little deeper for me.
Later in his career, David Bowie started doing a whole bunch of collaborative albums. He did duets and so many. And I think you reach a point where, you get a chance because of who you are. You get a chance to actually have some of these people you've idolized, do the collaborative work.
Right.
So, but when you talk about Ella Carmen McRae, I mean, I hear Carmen's voice and I hear your voice. It would be a really interesting collaboration. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me play you the last of the 4 songs that we have tonight. And I want you to set this one up because I love this song. I must have played this song 500 times already. The Assignment.
Okay.
So why don't you tell everybody about The Assignment?
The Assignment. Okay. Now, this story isn't as great as the others, but it's very real. I mean, it may be even better depending on how you look at it. I say this is my manifestation song. When I wrote this song, I used the word drought. I was in drought. Okay.
Go ahead. We have to start again.
I froze.
Start again.
Okay. No, I'm just playing. Okay, here we go. So I say when I wrote The Assignment, I look at it as a manifestation song. I call it drought. I was in drought. There was no one understanding the assignment when I wrote The Assignment. But when Eddie sent me the track, it was just like, it was something in me that it spoke to that hadn't been touched in a while. And, I had been in mommy mode and in teacher mode, and I needed to be in woman mode. I needed to be in another space. And so I just kind of started seeing it as if it were happening and manifesting it, like just putting it out there and like drawing it to me, and yeah, I'd say it helped.
So so far, all these four songs, so many of these are personal experiences, and a lot of artists deny the personal experience. They always say, "No, I really wasn't thinking about that," But you're upfront about it. A lot of this stuff comes right out of your heart.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
So wonderful. Let me play the assignment for everybody, and then we'll talk a little more.
He understood the assignment. He understood the assignment. Baby, just relax. Baby, just relax. Won't you satisfy me? Yes, I will react. Yes, I will react. When you come inside, pull the covers back. Pull those covers back. Whisper to her sweetly. Whisper to her sweetly. She knows what you like. She knows just what you like. Squeezing you so tightly. Now I'm sweating hard. Now I'm sweating hard. Speaking of heart, ooh-wee. Shivers down my back. On down my back. Baby, this is everything. This is everything. He understood the assignment. Got me in perfect alignment. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood the assignment. He did me good. He did me good. Did me so good. Did me so good. Got me in perfect alignment. He understood. He understood the assignment. Yes, you did. Got me in perfect alignment. What is this I'm really feeling? Doing everything but chilling. Got my feet up on the ceiling. Hey, heaven knows he's in so deep. My head is spinning, knees so weak. And I ain't thinking about no sleep. I ain't thinking about no sleep. Every day that I wake up, I let him know that I'm in love, in love. Addicted to his touch, and I'm afraid his love. Every single day that I wake up, I let him know that I'm in love, in love. Addicted to his touch, and I'm afraid his love, his love. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood. He understood. Yeah. He did me good. He did me good. So very good. Got me in perfect alignment. Wake up, I love in love, addicted to his touch. He understood the assignment. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. You clearly were not in mommy mode when you did that one. Wonderful song. That's what I like about this album. Every song is really different, and it's a different part of your soul that you're really bearing and letting everybody know who you are. So, it's a biographical album. It's wonderful.
I love that biographical album. I
Yeah,
love that.
it is. And look, you've been wonderful. I'm so glad to have you back on the show, and I'm so honored to be able to be the first station to play this wonderful music. I want to thank you so much for the privilege of having you and also be able to play your music for everybody.
Oh, thank you, King Mel. Thank you for having me
My
twice.
pleasure. twice. You're the first person ever to reappear on my show after 60 vocalists. So, yeah. So, let me. Any last words you want to leave to your fans and new listeners who are becoming fans? Anything you want to say to everybody before you go?
Um, well, you can follow me at all things Mavis Swann Poole, MavisSwannPoole.com, at Mavis Swann Poole. So please stay in contact and just keep supporting, platforms like this and listen, tune in, spread the word, not just for the sake of me, but just for the sake of everyone. Because if no one gets the word out, if they don't hear us, then we're singing in the shower. We're shower singers. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for the platform that you provide for us. You become the musician's everyday hero. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Wonderful. And Mavis, you're going to be the first person to be back for a third time. So I'll wait for your next drop after this one, and we'll have you back for the first one for 3 times. You're a wonderful guest and a wonderful person, and I wish you only the best for a continued career.
Thank you so much. And likewise, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Good night now.